You deserve to see your goals come to pass. You deserve to see what God has for you in your life, but you're not going to get there unless you start honoring your word. In this video, we're going to talk about 3 disciplines you need to master in order to reach your goals. Now, in the beginning of the year, everybody's so excited because they believe that this is going to be their best year. They're going to be the best version of themselves. But I have to be very honest with you. Most of you probably will not get there unless you master these 3 things. These are the 3 things that have probably been keeping you stuck in the same place year after year and causing you to lose momentum halfway through the year. Now, of course, I want to start the video off by telling you that these are 3 things that I've had to master in my own life. I have not always been consistent. I have definitely not always been disciplined. And I realized after falling on my face so many times and not reaching my goals, I finally realized what was stopping me. And it was these 3 things. The first discipline that you need to master is obedience. Okay? Obedience. I know you were probably thinking I was going to say your diet or you were going to start having to wake up earlier. No, the first thing that you need to master in order to reach your goals is obedience. If you watched my Reinvent Yourself video, you know that I said that the most productive thing that you can do is serve the Lord. You think by doing 10,000 things that some guru on the internet told you is going to help you to reach your goals, but really it's the thing that God is calling you to do. If your goals are not aligned with God's will for your life, then your efforts are going to be wasted. And so the most crucial thing that you can do this year is be obedient. I know that you have probably been sitting on things that God has told you to do for so many years. God's told you to write the book a long time ago, launch the YouTube channel, start the community, and you've been kind of sitting on those things. Maybe He's told you to shut something down or walk away from something, and you're like, oh, I'll do it when I have more time. I'll get to it. No. This year, you have to be obedient, and you have to be obedient quickly. You have to be obedient when it doesn't make sense. You have to be obedient when it's uncomfortable, because when you're not obedient, you're causing yourself delay. You're not just delaying others and delaying what God has for you, but you're causing yourself delay. Delayed obedience causes emotional, mental, physical, financial, and even spiritual consequences. A lot of the negative effects that you've probably been feeling is probably because you're not being obedient. Now, this is not the case for everyone. Like I said, this is specifically if you know that you have been struggling with being obedient and obedient quickly. I don't mean the type of obedience where you're taking your time after you heard God say something. I mean radical, quick obedience. If you really want to reach your goals and you want to reach all that God has called you to do, you have to be obedient and obedient quickly. You don't want to miss the grace that God has for something, because when you're working outside of His grace, that's when things get very heavy. You feel overwhelmed and stressed and feel like you don't have enough time. It's because you're working outside of His grace. So that's the very first discipline that you want to master this year, is being obedient quickly. And how do you do that? You prioritize your time with God. It doesn't matter whether you do it in the morning, the night, in the afternoon, whatever it is. You want to make sure that you're making time to be still before the Lord. And when you ask Him something and when He tells you to do something, you do it quickly. I know God's instructions don't always feel clear. Trust me, my whole life has been a walk of obedience and none of it has made sense until I started making the steps. So even when it doesn't make sense to you, you still have to be obedient. And I know it's scary. I know it's uncomfortable. I know it just feels like it'd be easier to do nothing, but you can't afford to be delayed and distracted this year. This is your year to break out of the cycle of being stuck, and the thing that's going to get you there is obedience. Now, the second discipline that you're going to want to master this year in order to reach your goals is executing. If you can make a habit of executing, it will change your life. Now, what is executing? To execute means to carry out a plan or an action. Now, why is this important? Planning and executing are 2 different things. A lot of you have done very well with your planning. You've got your New Year's goals written out and you're ready to hit the ground running, but you're not actually doing the things. Planning is necessary, but executing is where you're going to see the fruit of your results. Some of you have had plans for years, but you still have not done anything with those things because you think that the plan is the result, but it's not. You have to put the plan into action in order to see the results. Again, you have to put the plan into action in order to see the desired results. For example, I can give you a perfectly laid out strategy and plan for how to start waking up earlier, but at the end of that plan, guess what you have to do? Start waking up earlier by implementing the plan. One of the things that really stops people from executing is confidence. They struggle with having confidence in themselves. They deal with overthinking and fear. But the thing that you really have to understand about confidence is confidence comes with experience, and experience comes from executing. If you want to grow more confident in the things that you're called to do, you have to gain experience, which means you have to start moving. An object in motion stays in motion, so get in motion. And the biggest thing about executing is that you don't have to feel ready to execute. You don't have to feel fully healed to execute. You don't have to feel comfortable or motivated to execute. You just have to start. And it doesn't have to be this huge thing that you have to accomplish. Even the smallest steps can help you to start building some progress and momentum. And so don't get discouraged if you start executing and you don't immediately see the fruit of your efforts. Stay consistent with it. Remember, consistency plus effort equals results. If you start executing even the tiniest bit and you maintain that momentum, you will begin to see the results. It doesn't mean that you have to be perfect. It doesn't mean that you have to do it every single day. It just means that you got to show up. You got to show up and show up the best that you can at every moment. The whole reason why I started organizing my thoughts in this channel and the podcast is because I spent so many years stuck inside my head. I made the perfect plans, the perfect strategy, and I never moved forward with any of it. And every year I was in the same place, stuck with anxiety, stuck with overthinking, being jealous and envious of people starting the things that God given me ideas to do, being frustrated and with my own self and just hiding, on the sidelines my whole entire life. And I said, enough is enough. I have to start making some momentum. I didn't feel healed all the way. I didn't feel confident all the way. But the more I moved, the more confident I felt. The more I moved, the more healing came along the way, because I began to partner with God in my weaknesses, and He showed up in the times where I didn't have it. All I had to do was say yes, and I started. And sometimes that's all you need, is that execution to just get started, and everything else will follow. Now, the key to go from planning to execution is accountability. Whether you hold yourself accountable or you invest in someone to hold you accountable, that is the missing piece for a lot of you. If you know that you struggle with holding yourself accountable, invest in someone that can hold you there. Because if not, when things get hard, you're going to give up. I talked about this in my How to Be Consistent video. You need to have someone holding you accountable while you're building the habit of consistency, or when things get hard, you will give up. And it will be probably years before you try again because you're so hard on yourself. But the benefit of having accountability is that you have someone that is literally holding your hand. And there's nothing wrong with that, because when you've been in a stuck place for a long time, you need someone in your corner who's supporting you, who's helping you to work past those objections and those negative thoughts that are trying to break you down. That accountability is going to be that missing piece. And for a lot of you, you need to get serious about investing in the people that are going to hold you accountable. You cannot do it all by yourself, and that is okay. And people like me, I'm a certified Christian life coach, and I'm here to help you along the way. So again, that second discipline that you need to master this year is execution. Now, the last discipline that you need to master in order to reach your goals this year is honoring your word. Yes, honoring your word is a discipline. Keeping the promises to yourself is a discipline. A lot of you have been breaking promises to yourself for so long that you've developed this habit of self-sabotage, and you don't even believe that you can do it anymore. But you can. Keeping promises to yourself is a habit, and it starts one by one. I have been in that place where I said I was going to do something so many times, and I showed up for everyone else but me. But I had to learn that keeping promises to myself is a form of love. But the Bible talks about loving yourself as you love your neighbor. How can you love your neighbor if you do not love yourself? How can you show up for everyone else but not show up for you? It is a lack of love. And let this be the year where you love yourself. You deserve to see your goals come to pass. You deserve to see what God has for you in your life. But you're not going to get there unless you start honoring your word. And that starts with commitment. Make that commitment verbally to yourself. I am going to keep the promises I make to myself. And when you feel like you're about to fall off, remind yourself of that vow you just made out loud. Write it on your wall, because you show up for everyone else. You show up for your family, you show up for your friends, you show up for your boss, you go hard for everyone else. Let this be the year that you learn how to keep the promises that you make to you, because you only get one shot at this life. And you don't want to look back and see that you served everyone else, but you never did what God called you to do. There are people attached to your life. There's things that God called you to do. There's fruit and blessings attached to your life, and you'll never see it unless you learn how to honor your word. One of my favorite scriptures that I just want to end this video off with is in 1 Corinthians 9, and I'm going to read verse 24 through 27. This is Paul speaking, and he says, "Don't you realize that in a race everyone runs, but only one person gets the prize? So run to win. All athletes are disciplined in their training. They do it to win a prize that will fade away, but we do it for an eternal prize. So I run with purpose in every step. I am not shadowboxing. I discipline my body like an athlete, training it to do what it should. Otherwise, I fear that after preaching to others, I myself might be disqualified." Be like Paul. Discipline your body like an athlete. Train yourself to submit to the disciplines that you know that you can do, and you will see that you can reach your goals, that you can become all that God has called you to be. Run your race. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't get distracted in this season. Master those 3 things and you will begin to see progress in your life. This is your year to win. Do not give up. So let's recap. The 3 disciplines that you need to master this year in order to reach your goal. Number 1, obedience. Be obedient and be obedient quickly. Number 2, execution. Stop thinking, start executing. Confidence comes with experience, and experience comes by executing. Number 3, honor your word. Keep the promises that you make to yourself. Be a woman or be a man of your word, and you will see the fruits of your efforts begin to pay off. This is your year. You can do it. This is going to be a different year for you because your mindset is going to be different. Your habits are going to be different. And you're going to make the vow today to commit to becoming all that God has called you to be. So I believe in you. If this video has been helpful for you, definitely click the share button and send it to a friend who needs to hear the same thing so that you guys can win together. I love you guys, and I'll talk to you on the next video.